put on their payroll every single week.
Oh, I got one other question. When you look at the statement every month for how each committee is doing, like food and beverage, and they list income, and it says outside events income. But when you look on the expense sheet, there is no any place written where to show you how much the expenses were for that item. It says we made, I don't know, $50,000 for weddings during the month. When you go to the expenses, there's nothing on there for outside expenses.
That is also, it's not in the finance report, but the report is given, the P&L is given on all activities in the monthly that we get in the finance committee.
But if you look on the golf, it says we bought 14 pair of shoes, 3 gloves, whatever, and it shows you exactly what it cost.
Not in the finance report. It doesn't say anything like that about golf.
Look it up for golf.
Right here, it just tells you the total products, soft goods and so on. The breakdown of the food and beverage, there's a whole sheet just like this, given monthly. And it shows the profit and loss on every item. It shows the cost of food as well as how much the event brought in, how much was paid to employees. It's not in your report, it's given out once a month. Same with golf. If you want to see the actual purchase of items, they come through when we sign the checks for those things. But it is available. In fact, Bonnie probably knows more about it than I do.
Okay, it's me. Bonnie Walsh. He's right, because in the monthly financials that we get, in the line items in food and beverage, the expenses, some of those line items include expenses that apply to outside events and inside events. They aren't broken out. And I have looked at that for golf. You see every item broken down for expenses for the golf course. So if you look at the pages in the monthly financial for food and beverage, you will see that there are not line items for expenses for outside events. Marshall does make a separate spreadsheet, but that's something that I don't think is automatically given to the board as part of your package. Do you get the spreadsheet that has revenues from outside events, resident-sponsored events, and resident-type events like Labor Day or whatever? Marcia makes that separate spreadsheet for the finance committee.
Bonnie, I just stated that. I said there's a separate P&L that comes to food and beverage. Let me finish. Comes to food and beverage. I'm looking at this golf sheet. It does not break down anywhere each item by item. It just shows to you total sales, total golf accessories, total squad goods, total soft goods.
But
The food and beverage P&L breaks it down by each situation, whether it was a wedding or whether it was and it gives you the whole thing. It's a spreadsheet.
I know what the spreadsheet looks like. I'm well aware of it. I know what the P&Ls look like
It's
too.
available to the residents.
They have to know to ask for it if they want to see it.
Mr. Warren wants it, you can get it at the front desk.
Discussing the same thing.
My name is Rob Paul. I'd like to ask a question. Do you have an overall cost of what the kitchen and the pack room, just a general, what the cost was for the renovation? Could you give me a total figure on that, or approximate figure? Total figure of what the cost of residents and the monies that came out to pay for all that.
With the pack room and everything, it's over $700,000.
Okay, your question.
About 540 with total for the kitchen with all the capital equipment. At least, I don't know, I don't have to write down, but it's over 700.
Great, and I understand it's going to work great and everything's going to do fine. The only question I have is who does the adjustment on the rentals to cover the cost of upkeep, maintenance, and the use of that equipment for outside activities? those, when we go to replace or repair equipment, does your rentals cover those costs? Do you, is who adds the cost of those rentals in there for longevity of that equipment? Because they're cooking, they're using our tables, they're using our tables and every other thing in the facility are part. Do we have costs, on the rental figured in to cover the replacement of that equipment? Gary, that's my question.
No, I think I got it. They're asking how we pay for the future of this equipment.
Absolutely, like the kitchen use and all that stuff. Is the rental going to be increased to help offset the cost to replace that?
And first of all our stuff that goes into reserve, it goes into our reserve fund for replacement. It's fine, that's there. Its use, maintenance is done normally through our maintenance operations. I guess I'm not right. But it comes through reserve. It's put into reserve and say it was $20,000 and it's got a 10-year lifespan. It's funded for the next 10 years and then it's replaced through reserve. If you're saying what portion of it would be charged off to the people using the wedding, are you making that point? Well, that's how the managers price their wedding. When they say, how is electric, how is the use, they would price that into the cost of the wedding.
That's exactly my question. Are we going to explain increases to help offset that?
I would hope so.
Reserve, to put it in reserve. And my other,
Right.
my other thing that came up is, I came back on the snowbird, a lot of them aren't back yet, but I was at the, entertainment last night. Again, I didn't know if they had entertainment or a jukebox in the corner because I couldn't see anything. Whoever's in charge of the reconstruction or movement of whatever you're going to do out there needs to take a look at it, because if we're going to service the community and take care of the people, then we need to look at opening it up out there or closing it down, one or the other, because it's bar is great, the service is there, we got people there, but you can't see the entertainment, you can't hear the entertainment, and you certainly don't have seating for the people who don't see the entertainment. That's all I have to say.
I guess I beg to differ with Ken, because any of the money is made from the weddings and outside events goes back into the operating fund. None of it goes into the reserve fund to offset the wear and tear on the assets.
Since we're talking about private parties and weddings, I personally hate on a Saturday night, what's going on at the clubhouse? Private party. So we take our money and go to other people's communities and spend our money at their food and beverage because we don't have anything for us on a weekend night. And I know we're retired and every day is a Saturday, but Saturday night, and I think the amount of money they make on a wedding, look at Billy Joel thing, how quickly that's sold out. Put that on, add some money for the people that want to come and eat first. We'll pay the same amount of money you're getting for the wedding, but we're using what we paid for instead of paying for it for people who don't support it and don't live here.
Getting the point?
Any other?
In doing my research on what genes are and what genes aren't, I came across the golf course dress policy and noticed that it said that collared shirts must be worn at all times. But then you read farther down and it says Henley-type collars are acceptable. And I thought to myself, gee, they have a contradiction here, so I went and talked to the pro just to let him know that they have a contradiction that you need to work on. And while I was there, I asked him, is this a country club? And guess what his answer was? Well, sure it is. This is a country club. It just so happens that I taught at Hernando High School, and one of our, when you go out the gate, whatever those people are called, was a former student of mine. And I happened to, he introduced himself to me. So he was Joe Biden. I said, yeah. And he said, I was a student of yours, guy, blah, 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 blah. And I asked him, I said, well, I know that you work for, and I read whatever it says on the shirt. I said, but are they employed by a country club? And he said, well, sure. This is a country club. So I began to wonder, why are these two people, and I've gotten the general senses of that also, why do they think this is a country club? Well, maybe this is the reason why. Your envelopes says Heritage Pines Country Club Community. The stationery says Heritage Pines Country Club Community. The dress code submitted by that ad hoc committee. The dress code says, the dress code, a guide to appropriate dress when visiting Heritage Pines Country Club Community. In the pool table, I don't think it's called pool tables, whatever they call it. There is a sign that says Heritage Country Club. It doesn't even say community, it's not a sign, it's a mirror of some sort. Okay, so my question to you, and I have some other questions, but my question to you is, are we a country club? And if you don't think we are a country club, why don't we get this changed? Because I think this is a big problem with why we have so many problems. We have people in administration and on the committees that are using the idea that this is a country club and are going to do an Obama and they're going to change this to a country club, no matter what. So I'd like to have people in the committee here address, are we a country club or not? And if we're not, what are you going to do to change that philosophy, which I think our committees are using to establish some of their rules?
Argue the same on.
In answer to your question, legally, we are not a country club.
There
We
you
are a
go.
community interest realty association. Realty association. Whether we're gonna change that or not, yes, once again, it's up to the board. I think my sense is that although we are an association, there are people in the community, and a significant number of people in the community, that love to refer to us as a country club. Whether that's gonna change, I don't know. My sense is, I personally don't have any problem with the literature that goes out saying we're a country club. The board knows who we are. The board knows why that's going out. If the board decides to change it, that's up to them. Any other board member want to comment?
I don't see the downside of our current literature. I don't see what Mr. Joby's your point is, of the committees and perception and so forth. You know, if I understood your argument, then I could form an opinion. But I don't understand what your argument is. How could we state it?
I'm going back to the dress code. That dress code is pretty well established because I think that the people on that committee, or some people on that committee, because it took a lot of votes before they were able to force in jeans. I think that's in our policy on the cash and no cash and the notice card. I think all that subconsciously, and at least subconsciously, is what has brought that about.
My wife told me before I came up here that I needed to hold my tongue. But I can only hold my tongue for so long. I think the key word on our sign out front, and you worry about costs and whatever, but to change all of those things, is country club community. Community. So it's like a country club type community. It's not a country club. And as far as the dress code, we might go into that right now. Part of the situation there is that the minority that are offended by that, there was 646 people in the community that decided to take the survey. Can't go out and
When they take that survey.
long-range planning committee is actually going to try and take surveys to each door, give it to each person, whether it's one or two in the household, go back and collect the surveys so that they can get every participant. This is not Russia, the Soviet Union, where when somebody says to you, you have to do this, that you have to do it. You know, I mean, some of the elections in some of those countries, 98% of people vote for the dictator. Now, so it is a democracy, the majority does rule. 646 people took the time to take the survey on the dress code. 62.7%, which is a majority of 646 people, said they didn't want jeans in the plus hour at the dinner hour, after the dinner hour. Now, so we should go against the majority for the minority to do it. I guess, now I didn't know that.
No, I was hoping that you finally say something. You know, I was bored you would be saying things. I just hear Mr. Crystal all the time. I'll bring up the same thing that I brought up the last time. Hats. So the majority, 50, I think it's 56 or 54%, not quite as high as that, said that hats should not be worn before 4 o'clock. Before. It's a little bit higher than that after, before. Now, why wasn't that passed? If I had to guess, and it's merely a guess on my part, it's because of golf. And you didn't want to offend the golfers. So you didn't touch that one. Okay? But my biggest objection is not the jeans. My biggest objection is, why are shorts acceptable and not jeans? That's my problem. If you're going to, shorts are not class. I'm sorry. If you don't have one, you shouldn't have the other. But there was no vote about shorts.
This is Florida, man.
Because people like to wear shorts, so you don't want to offend all those people. But you don't mind, and I don't think you should have a rule. I don't even know why you even stepped into the jeans situation when you want to legislate against a problem. I don't know that we have a jean problem. I don't know that we have a biker problem, and my God. What you have done is create I taught geometry, and my students were taught how you make a definition. And in your definition, you want to make it as short as possible. You don't want to say that a dog is an animal that has fur, but some of them don't have fur, or some of them have claws. You don't do that. And that's what you've done with your dress code. You have made it so you've covered every topic. You've covered every topic that you've created your own problems with the dress code. I can tell you right now that I can go to your website. And by the way, on your website it says Heritage Science. And I don't think the sign out front, by the way, says Heritage Science Country Club Community.
Active adult community.
It says
Active adult community.
I think it's an active adult country club community. I don't mind that. Okay, because that's different than saying it's a country. I have to see what it says, but I don't mind that sign. But what's happening with your dress code? You made it so inclusive that that's why you're having a problem with it. I lost my train of thought when I went to the sign up front.
Jeans.
Help.
Jeans. Jeans.
Neat and clean, 2 words.
I would like to know, let's just stop with that point right there. And I have another question I'd like to bring up. I would like to have a response why shorts are acceptable and jeans aren't. Why do you allow shorts and not jeans?
Maybe because we live in Florida.
Yeah.
No, you should think, why one and not the other, why not the other?
Oh, Fletcher.
You know.
He was, I can give you my Air Force serial number. To answer Mr. Jovi's questions, first of all, the hats have been permitted before dinner hour ever since we lived here. So to make that would have meant changing a rule that has existed and has been quite serviceable for many, many years. Secondly, you're right. The golfers, male golfers, come in off the course. They buy adult beverages, they buy food, and they present a sizable amount of income to our community. On the other hand, jeans have never been allowed for gentlemen. Ladies get a little pass on that, but gentlemen have not been allowed to wear jeans. I point out that there's a dinner being held next month called Oktoberfest. 200 people sold it out in 3 days. 50 more want to get in the door. And apparently they're okay with the dress code. They're okay paying for the tickets with their Jonas card, and they'll probably shake Mark and Paul's hand on the way out the door and say, great job. The sign out front says Country Club Living or something similar. I never memorized it. Is this place a country club? Perhaps it's not. But sure as heck is it a trailer park. And there's a light over.
Oh, sit down. Go sit down, you bum. Go ahead, Fletcher. You're the cynic. Go sit down.
And as co-chair of the Rules Committee, which by the way no longer exists. By the way, we had 60 meetings plus minus. Any resident was free to come and express their opinion. The issue of the dress code was brought up between two different boards of directors. This group and the group that preceded them. There was not ample time to discuss them there. And the vast majority of the people in this community, especially those people that use the restaurant and use it regularly, are perfectly happy with the current situation in dress code. And
we subsidize.
And you don't want anybody else going there neither, so.
People signed up for a dinner and they're going to follow it. How is that?
Oh, boy, tough guy.
Good job, good job.
Jackass.
We can't hear you.
In our industry, when I am a member of Club Managers of America Association, there are two types of clubs. There are equity clubs in which you pay X amount of dollars to join the club, and you have equity in the club, and there's what is known as a blended club, meaning we have a homeowners association, like Mr. Crystal was talking about, and a club, restaurant, bar, etc. So when the industry looks at us, they look at us as a country club, but a blended club. And that's how the industry, right, Art? Am I right about that? Art's been in the business much longer than I have. But as a club manager, when I go to club management meetings, that's exactly how they refer to us industry-wide across the nation.
Joe Gloria, Wyoming. I went to some of Fletcher's meetings, and the question of jeans was brought up, and they kept telling us there's 700, 600, 400 people that voted against it. Well, we're the people that go to the bar and go to the restaurant. And we took our own survey and had over 240 names signed that wanted to know why jeans couldn't be allowed. Maybe not at New Year's Eve or anything, but at the bar on casual times. Women wear jeans that cost more than any of the pants you guys are wearing. There's nothing wrong with a good, nice pair of jeans. And to say that that survey said that survey is people that don't even come up here. There's a number of people that don't come up here to anything and have a voice in what we do up here. And I just don't think that's fair.
October 20th, 2011 was the first time that a motion for jeans or no jeans was offered. I think it was offered before then. I think I may have lost something here. And it was not, in fact, they even asked to amend it to dress denim, and it did not pass. It did not pass. So something as popular as you're saying, I think would have passed. On November the 3rd, at a previous meeting, a motion did not pass for no jeans after 5 p.m. There was a motion to re-vote. They would not give up. They would not give up, these people that want jeans. It did not pass. There was a motion to re-vote to have a previous meeting, a motion did not pass for no jeans. They wanted to re-vote on that. On November the 10th, Fletch Chambers submitted a final draft of the third survey. The person who repeatedly voted against jeans made out the survey. Okay, that was on November the 10th. No discussion on December the 8th. Finally, on December the 15th, after at least 3 votes, the motion was amended during discussion to not allow jeans after 5 p.m. They had to phone a member so they could get his vote, and this is when the motion to have jeans was passed. And by the way, it was jeans all the time. It was never the motion when they tried to put Well, the kid came out of the survey said, geez, it didn't say anything, and that's what I'd like to have, this is my last question. We received a copy of what's going to happen at the board meeting today, 4 items. The communication committee said to go to the blah, blah, blah site, and you will find an explanation what the board members received about those 4 items. Well, the only information you received was about 3 of the 4 items, and the one that you did not receive any information about was the one about them. So I would like the person that submitted, that the board member that submitted that to be discussed today, to tell us what is the rationale for having them included for men now.
I'd be happy to do that. On the request for approval, on the board question, background, there seems to be some confusion about what is appropriate attire for men after 4 p.m. in the food and beverage area. Jeans, the idea behind the jeans is different. Now, if we start allowing, somebody said, we're all adults, we'd have appropriate dress. So what do we need to do? We have to hire another individual to stand at the front door and say, oh, that's appropriate. Who decides what's appropriate? If it's in a rule, it becomes appropriate dress. It makes it easy. And as far as the shorts, I think that this is Florida casual, and shorts are very acceptable. Anyway, again, to go back to it, there seems to be some confusion, as there was last month at the forum, in the appropriate attire for men after 4 p.m. And that is why I'm adding denim to the not acceptable men's dress code for dining area after 4 p.m.
You know, there've been, Rosie Tilton, there's been a number of decisions made in this community without the residents' voices being heard. And it seems to really be a bone of contention for people when that happens. And it would seem like some of the changes that happen come from a committee level, right, which are a few people, sometimes even an ad hoc committee, move to the board for approval. And yet you haven't heard the residents' input on it. You take the issue that just came up the other day about ticket sales, how tickets would be sold. You came up at the lifestyle committee meeting. The only, from the food and beverage manager, Paul Shapiro, on how tickets would be sold. Right? Again, this did not go to a community level for a decision. Isn't it as simple, excuse me for being naive here, but isn't it as simple as the board establishing a policy that requires public discussion before any decisions that impact all the owners is approved? I mean, don't you want to hear what the people want on dress code, or can one person buy 10 tickets? Are there only going to be 20 people able to get tickets in the pack room because there's only 20 tables? So, as it is, CBD has already helped increase our taxes without listening to our voices. I would just really think if you wanted to be an open, transparent, resident-friendly board, you would establish such a policy.
I just want to also say that the email addresses that are being sent, these surveys are being sent to email addresses. And I know that there's a board member here that thinks that there should only be 1 vote per household, right? Only 1 vote per household. And I suspect, and I could be wrong on this, that the email addresses, in many cases, there are 2 votes per household that are voting in order to establish these percentages that you have. And I don't think that's right. But I could be wrong on that. But I think I can look at my list, and for addresses, there's 2 email addresses, and I doubt that the survey knows which one is the one that's going to be sent to. So you're not really getting a true representation of the number of votes in households.
You're wrong on that, Mr. Joby.
Okay,
The email address, there may be 2, but on the survey monkey, if my wife takes the survey, it won't take it from my computer.
it doesn't, it recognizes the computer.
your IP address. It has nothing to do with your email address. The other piece of it is, and I go back to the democracy, 60 meetings with that ad hoc committee, and how many people showed up? The input from the community is wonderful and it's great, but they need to take some action. We can't go out and say, okay, so survey of 1,406 households in person.
I have one question and one comment. The question is, what was the date of the survey that everybody keeps referring to? Because I was thinking that survey was taken maybe 3-4 years ago. Is that when that survey was done?
December 8, 2011, the results were published. Bonnie said the survey would have been about 6 weeks before that. And it was a month, and there were hard copies available for people who did not have a computer or chose not to use it.
Okay, that answers the question. Although if you took the survey today, you may get different responses. My comment is, when the bar was in the dining room, it didn't seat very many people, and the people were in the dining room, so therefore I can understand that the dress code would apply to everyone in the dining room. I think when the dining room hours changed to 4 o'clock, which meant that the bar changed the dress code hours to 4 o'clock, I think that's when I started to have a problem with the dress code, because a bar is a bar and a restaurant is a restaurant. And I think that there's two different atmospheres. And one of my suggestions in one of my emails was perhaps to try not having the dress code in the bar for a month or 2 months and see if there's a problem with how people dress. At one point, I was thinking that the no jeans after 4 o'clock was to prevent someone from jeans walking through the dining rooms. But now it includes the lobby, the Magnolia room, that food is being served. So it's far more restrictive, including the bar and other areas where food is served. Eating dinner in the bar is a little different from eating dinner in the dining room and or the pack room.
As far as the survey, Jerry Dennis, as far as the survey, I know I received that survey in December, whatever it was. I received it 4 times. I know I answered it twice. So, again, I don't know if it kicks me out. It doesn't seem to kick me out, and we keep evidently resending it, because I did receive it 4 times. I question that.
This dress issue has been such a problem, and I think before the board reviews this, even today, I would suggest we're in a different place. We have a brand new facility, and I think back then, maybe having 4 seats at the bar was different than what we have now. We have a separate bar, we have a separate restaurant, we have a new pack room, a new kitchen, and I think we need to review it. Plus with the fact, as far as dress code goes, I taught high school students needed a dress code. We're grown adults in the adult community. I don't think I need to be told what to wear to an event at the clubhouse. And if someone is out of line with their dress, I would expect that the food and beverage manager would take them aside and talk to them quietly, or the manager would talk to them quietly. I don't really feel we need a dress code. We're adults, we know how to dress. We know how to dress in the bar, we know how to dress in the restaurant, and I don't think we need one, but I think we should review it before anything's done. Question on the reserve. My question on the reserve account was for today's meeting. Today I printed out the packets that the board forgot for the first time, I've never looked at them before. And I noticed that on September 10th, the committee met and had new business to buy this golf cart for the tennis court. And then I looked at the printouts for the 3 bids, and they were dated back in August, when the meeting hadn't even taken place till September 10th. So my concern was, why would the committee of the reserve get bids, competitive bids, before it had even been approved? Like, that didn't sit well with me, and I'm sure it wouldn't sit well with residents. And I understand that this is not the first time that this is done. I guess I have that question to the answer.
Larry Lanty, the Reserve Committee. One of the requirements made for us when we receive the proposal is we don't review the proposal unless it has the bids with it. So the general manager has to forward a request to us. We cannot generate a request. When the request is sent to us, it is sent to us for funding, not okaying the item. The item is in the reserve, so he looks and sees if it's in the reserve, or once in a while as items we miss. He decides whether it's a valid item or not to be purchased. Once he makes that decision, then his manager, in this case Valley Crest, went out and got 3 bids for the project. The project came back to the general manager. He reviewed it, signed off on the project. It came to the reserve committee to verify that it was a reserve. The only 2 things we can do is verify it is a reserve item and that the funds are available. So once, and he's responsible for the bidding process. We aren't. Now, so it came to us with 3 bids. 1, it's a legal item. 2, we have the money, and the money is in there to do it. So we okayed it. Because it's above $4,999, then it has to come to the board in addition to the reserve committee to be approved. So remember, we don't get anything until it goes through the general manager. And then it comes to us for 2 things. One is it a legal item to be bought out of the reserve, and do we have the money? So those things were satisfied. The bids were got by Chris back in August. The paperwork was done by today. It came to us like it's supposed to, and now it's at the board. So some of those things take a month, 2 months, sometimes 3 months to get it all worked out. So we received it at the time we're supposed to receive it, after the general manager has done all his, was responsible for collecting all the information. Any other questions?
What happens to the money once who decides how much is going to be sold for the turf cart? Like when this item is sold, who sells it and where does the money go? Doesn't it go back to?
It goes back to money. If it's a salvageable item, then in this case, Chris will get a estimate on what it's worth. And once he receives that estimate, if that estimate is over $250, then he will send a letter to the board for the board to okay the disposal of that item. That goes back to Chris. Chris then disposes of the item. If the item brings in $290, that $290 then is deposited back into the reserve. If it's an item that's bought out of operations and we dispose of it, that money goes back into the operations account. So both accounts, depending where it's funded from, the account that funds it gets the money back from salvage.
I have a neighbor that's in a wheelchair, and he wears jeans all the time, because they wear out the least amount of anything else that he could wear. And he was up there in the afternoon, came 4 o'clock, because he had jeans on, they asked him to leave. Now, for him to wheel himself all the way home, change his pants, and come back out, I think that's outrageous. And I think the dress code should be the dress code, but there has to be exceptions.
Yep.
board agenda item today. It was certainly going round and round on this dress code. It is, what, 2 years old? But,
Less than a year, Randy, you voted on it in the early part of this year.
okay. There seems to be a certain degree of acrimony going on about, I think, if you were to focus down and define the argument, is a genes issue. And I believe in my own review that with Bonnie and I had talked prior to this a little bit, and when that survey was put out, the bar was adjoined with the dining room, and now it's a separate entity. And so there are two different atmospheres, and the dining room, or the bar, is not really a dining bar. It has bar food. If any of you had the pizza, you'll know what I mean. It is bar food. Okay. And I think we need to, I like the idea. Also, on my street, on Pine Grove, we've had a number of new residents, and they are all younger residents, surprisingly. And the culture of the younger residents are going to be changing from some of the older residents that we have here. So this is a moving target, this dress code, particularly as we define it to genes. So I think Meg said maybe a trial basis to determine in the bar. Somebody mentioned it, Bonnie, might be something to consider. Maybe we can bring that up at the board meeting. But I'm bringing it up now so that we can kind of chew on it while we're thinking silently, that to help determine this, not to eradicate the dress code and all the work that went behind that, or we have a whole new survey, which is very time consuming. But I do think that we have two separate areas and there's two separate concepts, and I am certainly in favor of being proactive in trying to find a solution for this. And the silent majority, I'm not sure how to answer that. The survey didn't get to everybody. I understand, or they didn't want to answer it. I can't get a survey in my own building sometimes. But I do think that it deserves our attention, and as a board member, I'm sensitive to what Mr. Joby is saying. I don't necessarily have to agree with it, but I'm sensitive to it. I understand that something, we need to look at it collectively as a board and try to come to solutions.
I've only been here, I'm sorry.
One last statement. Part of the problem was that who is going to say what's appropriate where and what is not appropriate where? So you can't put that issue on the managers, because what I think is appropriate, shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, actually Tommy Bahama, versus a tuxedo or whatever, versus what you think is appropriate or what anybody else thinks is appropriate. So if you don't have it in black and white, then what you have is somebody making a subjective discussion. I walk out of the bedroom, we're going someplace, and I'm dressed, and my wife looks at me and goes, "You're not going to wear that, are you?" Well, I was planning on it, you know, but I guess not. So that's where, if you don't have it in black and white, then somebody has to be, you know, what is appropriate? I mean, I'd love to wear my Grateful Dead t-shirt, but I'm not going to. I'm done.
I respect all the work that we do, the dress code, being not just here, not actually this month will be my 2-year anniversary here. I've had 7 friends or family members move in, and we're all in like 50-ish to 60 age group. And